Big up Marlon, big up Ash, big up the great channel that is Spurs Kings TV. Thanks for having me on once again. Last time we did this video after the Ipswich game, I said to you that, you know, I've still got faith in Ange Postecoglou, but I am starting to question him now. Well, that has kind of dramatically changed for me now, because I think it's certain in my mind that I don't think he's the right man to take us forward. When you're looking at the form that Spurs have been on, look, I know, you know, he's had things going against him with the injuries and everything like that, but I still think regardless of that, he should be picking up a lot more points than he's been picking up. And even it dates back before the injuries, it predates the injuries, to be honest. I think if you look at just the last 38 games as Spurs manager, it's nowhere near good enough. You know, not enough focus on the defensive side of the game. We look way too open. It seems as it's like the most carbon copy of the same goal that we concede time and time again. And it's just getting frustrating to watch week in, week out. And to be honest, I'll be completely honest with you, I've lost all faith with this manager. And look, I'd love to sit here in 6 months' time and he's turned it around and I've been proven wrong. That's what I want, but I just can't see that happening. So yeah, the reality is I have lost all faith and I can't see him turning it around. When you're looking at the way we went out of the Cups, the way we lost to Aston Villa, the way we lost to Liverpool and just threw it away in that second leg, it's kind of unforgivable when that's what we really wanted in this season, is to win a cup, and we put ourselves in a decent position to do that, being in a semi-final of the cup. And yeah, I know you're playing Liverpool, it's not going to be easy, but look at the way Newcastle dismantled Liverpool in the cup final. You know, Liverpool had no answer to them, and we pretty much in that second leg, we got absolutely battered. We didn't lay a glove on them. Aston Villa was pretty much the same. It could have been a lot more than it was in both games. And the league form has been nothing short of tragic. I mean, the last time we've had such a poor league form, like the playing staff were nowhere near as good as what we've got now. So with what he's got at his disposal, even with the injuries, he should have been doing a lot better. And I think myself, like many other Spurs fans, have lost all faith in a future with Ange Postecoglou, and I firmly believe he won't be here next season. Talking about the Europa League, we all know it's Europa League or bust for Spurs in the season now. Can he win it? Look, I think if luck is on his side, and I think Frankfurt are a team we can beat in the semi-finals, Bodo Glimt and Lazio are teams that we can beat on our day. And I think in a final, anyone that we get in the final, even Athletic Club Bilbao, I think we can beat. Will we beat them though, is the other question. I don't have faith that we can go to Frankfurt and win. I think we need to take at least a 2-goal lead there from the first leg to have any hope of going through into the next round. And with the way we play at this current moment in time, can I see that happening? No. But I think with the quality that we have in our squad, we should be not fearing anyone in this tournament. But the reality is, the way the manager sets us up and history of the last 38 games, it just leaves me with no hope and no faith that we could do anything in this tournament. But once again, I hope I'm proved wrong, and let's hope Ange Postecoglou can do something. Obviously, with the level of team we're playing against, we can get the job done. I just don't think we will. And in terms of who I want next, who I want to take over next season, I mean, I'm just completely disillusioned with life at Tottenham Hotspur right now, as you could probably tell in the multiple videos and debates I have on We Are Tottenham TV on a daily basis over the past 3 months. But I think any manager is doomed for failure under the ENIC tenure. You're looking at all the managers that we've had past Pochettino, post Pochettino, even Pochettino, you can take him as an example as well. No manager ever gets the tools that they need to succeed in the job, and that is the reality. Jose Mourinho, Conte, pure winners come through at this club, and we give them B-Tech level players to do the job. We all know the calibre of player that they wanted through at the club, and then we end up getting people like Matt Doherty and Clement Longley and these kind of players. So does it matter even who our next manager is? I'd like to think it does, and I'd like to think a magician like Pochettino can come in and kind of punch above his weight of what the board are trying to do. But having said that, I think with the players that Postecoglou does have at his disposal, he should be doing a lot better, and I do think we've got a much better squad than we had under the Contes and the Joses.
Yo people, it's Tobs here, representing for Spurs Kings TV, and I'm here to respond to some questions that they've asked me to speak on. First question, where am I at with Ange Postecoglou since the last video? Well, I wasn't on the last video, but I've watched it, and personally for me, I'm all the way out, man. Enough is enough. It's time to go. We see the team consistently unbalanced. We see the defence consistently open. We see the midfield completely dysfunctional. We see our striker starved of service most weeks. We see a system that is so heavily predicated on inconsistent wingers receiving a lot of the ball. We see players being overutilized. We see players being underutilized. We just don't really play good football. We lose so many matches. It's just not good. It's just not good. And he's got, I would say, probably 90% of the squad fit right now. And the performances are probably getting worse. So, yeah, it's time for me to go, man. It's time for him to go, sorry. This has been, what, like, since, I would say, February last year. Just really, really bad form. Very inconsistent form. Can he win the Europa League? I mean, can pigs fly? I don't think he can win the Europa League. I'm sorry. I think Spurs should be looking to get to the semis, but Frankfurt, whilst I think we do have a better squad man for man, we all know football isn't played on paper. Sorry, I just had to readjust the camera. It's not played on paper, it's played on the football pitch. And on the football pitch, we're not being coached well enough, and too many players are not performing well enough for us to really have the confidence that we can actually beat Frankfurt, or better yet, we can actually go and win the cup competition. We've seen nothing over the last couple of months to suggest that we're going to win this competition. So the second question is a no for me. For the third question, I am out. Number one replacement for Ange next season. To be honest, I don't have one. I really don't have one. I would like Iraola, sorry. I would also like Marco Silva. Like, they're good managers. They're outperforming what they've been given in the Prem. But they're not the be-all and end-all. I'm really, really open. For me, I go off attributes. I need a manager who's going to get us playing much better than we're playing now. I need a manager who's going to keep us solid when we need to be solid. I want a manager who's going to get us attacking when we need to be attacking. I like a manager who's going to balance the squad properly, utilize players better, not have a system that's so wedded to some of the poorest players in our squad. Be able to use playmakers properly, be able to organise the defence properly, be able to rotate our fullbacks properly. I just want a functioning team. A manager who can give us a functioning team and can balance both sides. That's what I want. So, yeah, that's my opinion. What needs to change at the club for the next manager to succeed? New ownership. New ownership. These owners, they're not fit for purpose. We need new ownership. But that's looking unlikely. So if we have to go with what we can do to platform the next manager, hopefully in the best way possible, I would say we need at least one more midfielder to come in at the base of the midfield who can pass the ball, who can tackle the ball. I think we need to change our approach when it comes to paying wages. We need to open up the door for more players to be on that higher end of the salary at Tottenham. It's all good and well trying to spend 60 million on a player that's going to get 120k a week. But more often than not, that 60 million pound player is probably going to give us a marginal uplift, whereas they should be looking to spend 62 million on a player that's probably going to be 180 grand a week. But guess what? That 180 grand a player is going to give us a significant uplift on what we have now. Change the wage structure a little bit, right? Open up the door for the higher end of the wages to more players that they go for. Don't just always feel like you have to go for, oh, he's British and he's young. No, sometimes go for quality. Go for quality. And unfortunately, quality costs money. So that's what I want to see change. I think that's big, irrespective of which owner we have in the summer. So yeah. And just be sensible. Have a proper approach in the summer that isn't so wedded on signing hella kids. Sign some established players to come in and push some of these starters to the bench. So that's me. Peace.
Yes, my homies, what's going on? My name is Leo Coys, the Mile High Hotspur. And I want to say big up to Spurs Kings TV for reaching out and inviting me to come on and giving my side, my opinion, how I feel about everything that's been going on. They've given me 3 questions, the same ones that fellow content creators have answered. So with that being said, hello? Hello? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I'm not in the same echo chamber. Yeah, so let's get into it, my homies. Marlon reached out and said, yo, could you answer these 3 questions for me? And I said, let's do it, my homies. I'm down for that. First one being, where am I at with Ange Postecoglou? Well, let's just go ahead and put this up right here. You know what I mean? I enjoy wearing this when I go to the pub. I enjoy wearing this. That's why I bought it when I was in London. But yeah, I'm Ange Postecoglou in. Till the day he's gone, it's just what it is. I'm not gonna sit here and bash the manager and place a bunch of different ones in his seat. So yeah, I'm Ange in until Ange wins. And if it just so happens that they can his ass, then it is what it is, my homies. What am I gonna do? The second question is, can he win us the Europa League? And this is where I'm going to have a bit of a laugh, my homies. Why is the question, can he win us the Europa League? The last time I checked, there's 11 players that play on the pitch and the manager is on the sideline. Whether he jumps around or is expressionless on the sidelines, it is what it is. But why can't the players go out there and win us this trophy? Why can't Tottenham go out there and collectively play good to win us a trophy for the fans, for the team, for the manager? You know what I mean? I don't think it's all on one player. I don't think it's all on one person, that being Ange Postecoglou. It's not all on one player. So, I mean, can he win us the Europa League? I mean, yeah, he can. Will he? We'll have to find out. Just like you're going to have to wait, I'm going to have to wait to find out. But, let's hope he does, my homies, because we need to lift the cup. Yeah, if I'm Ange out, who's the number 1 replacement for next season? If I'm in, what needs to change at the club for him to succeed? Look, my homies, I'll just give you both sides of the coin. You know what I mean? If I'm Ange out, which, I would say, what manager is going to come in and succeed at Spurs? I mean, my homies, we all know the answer to that. I mean, we really all know the answer to that. We know that nothing's going to change until one thing changes, regardless of who it is. I can't sit here and fantasize about, another relationship with Pochettino, or I don't even want to say bring in one of these other Premier League managers who can I just go out there and say are not even as decorated as Ange Postecoglou. I don't care what league he won his trophies in. There's not that many Premier League managers, actual current Premier League managers, that are more decorated than Ange Postecoglou. So why would I want somebody else to replace him on that note? Now, if I'm Ange in, what needs to change? Well, again, this goes on from the first half of it. What needs to change? We already know. But let's just say nothing changes. Daniel Levy is still in charge. Enoch is still in charge. And so is Ange Postecoglou. Then if that's the case, what needs to change? I would say the only thing that I haven't mentioned are the players who have been, pretty bad themselves too. If we're going to sit here and point fingers, a lot of the fingers just get bypassed the players and go straight to Ange when a lot of our key players are not even performing. So I would say we either need to get rid of some of these players that we have to bring in new players, which, I mean, is a blatant obvious, is it not? Or we just need to bend the whole plan and start over. I mean, it's just as simple as that, but I don't have a crystal ball to look into, nor would I want to. I would just like to see what it is that plays out, my homie. That's just the beautiful part of being a fan and, supporting your team regardless of who's in charge. You know what I mean? Yeah, so there you go, my homies. I hope you had a laugh with that one. But at the end of the day, it is just my opinion. I'm no expert. I'm just a fair weather fan. Yeah, but if you made it this far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Spurs Kings TV, and I'm out, my homies.
What is good, everyone at Spurs Kings TV? Big up to you, Ange and Mr. Marlon, the man himself. So where am I at with Ange? With Ange, like I gave him the benefit of the doubt for a long time. For me, it was that Ipswich game that he played. He took after that Ipswich game. I said if he doesn't play Spence after him being having another man of the match performance and our best player this second half of the season, then there's definitely something going on in the club. And he didn't play him. And what happened? The place where we conceded the first goal against City was down that right hand side. And Porro got absolutely destroyed by Doku that first half. For me, Ange has shown, for me, it's just more excuse after excuse, blaming fans, blaming the pitch, blaming everything else, blaming injuries. It's just, enough's enough, man. It's like, when is a guy going to actually look at himself and start blaming himself? I can't. There's too many inconsistencies. I think his style of football is just impossible unless you've got a squad of 25 top players who can rotate and you don't drop the quality when you take one player out, one player in. It's like the only time we seem to have any level of performance is when our best 11's playing with Van der Ven, Romero, and even then we're still inconsistent, because the type of football that we like to see, when it does work, it only happens once every in a blue moon. It's once every so often. It's like, and when it does happen, it is lovely to watch. It's beautiful football, right? We've seen it quite a few times this season, but that's the problem. It's only been those few times. It's not sustainable. His philosophy, it's he's too rigid. He doesn't want to change it, and when he does change it, it's like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like we brought in players to fit a particular system, yet he doesn't utilise the players that we have to play a system that actually would work with the players we have. It just makes no sense. I think he can't manage multiple tournaments or multiple competitions when you've got 3 or 4 competitions in one go. Yeah, and I just think, I just don't think he's up to it. In my opinion, I think I'm done with him. To me, it doesn't really matter if Ange stays or goes, because nothing's going to change, which kind of goes into the third question I know you guys have asked. I'll get into that, but yeah, basically, if he was to leave, which, to be honest with you, I don't know if he will. I mean, I even said when I first started coming back into YouTube that I just got a weird feeling that he might stay, and there might be. I think he is used as a shield a lot for Daniel Levy, and yeah, I just think he's he is kind of a more than a yes man than other managers might be, like, especially from the last couple of ones we've had. If I've got to choose someone, I don't really know who I'd like as the manager, to be honest. I know people keep saying Areola. He's good. I don't know if he'd probably do better with the players that we got than what Ange is doing. I think he'd coach them better, and I think he'd build the team, or he would make a system that suits the players we have, and I think he probably would get better out of Solanke, because I think he was managing him before, when in Solanke's best season and only good season in the Premier League. What else? Yeah, and I think ideally I'd like Poch back, but we know that's not going to happen anytime soon, and whether it happens under Daniel Levy or not is another question, and it definitely won't happen until after the World Cup. In terms of and with managers, I don't really care who manages, to be honest, because let's face it, no one is succeeding at this club, not under this leadership, not under this ownership, not under this ethos that they have in the club that's been instilled by Daniel Levy. The mentality at the club is disgusting from top to bottom, and until that changes, until there's winning mentality in this club, nothing changes. So it doesn't matter who the manager is. And in terms of Spurs winning the Europa League, look, the fact is Spurs can win the Europa League. They genuinely can. They're still in it. But whether they will win it or not is another question. And for me, I don't think they're good enough to win it. I think as much as I want them to win it, as much as I'd love to see them win it, I just think Eintracht Frankfurt and whoever we could face next, like Lazio, for example, I think that just the teams have just won it more than us. I mean, I don't think the injuries makes that much of a difference, to be honest. So we can win it, yes. Will we win it? I doubt very much. And one other thing I think with Ange, in terms of winning it, I think if Ange was to win it, I think that probably buys him more time, but I don't think he would. I still wouldn't want him to be the manager because I think he's just not good enough. He would give me one day Ramos vibes, like wins the trophy, but still awful manager in every other aspect. I mean, just look at the Premier League record this season. We're like in the worst for stats in most things now, and especially with if he's saying that the injuries are not his fault, then to me that's delusional. That is deluded because you can see the running stats. We run more than any other team in the league by a mile, and you wonder why we have so many muscular and hamstring issues. It's a bit obvious in it, but anyway. And the other thing I'd say, if Ange stays, I think not only do we need a new owner for him to succeed, because no one is, I think we need a whole new medical department, because I think the fact that they're getting they're putting their advertisements on LinkedIn just says everything you need to know about this club and the state it's in. So yeah, peace out everyone, and big up to Marlon and Ange Matic, the man himself, the myth, the legend, and Alex's guilty pleasure. Good to see you soon, boys.
Good evening, Spurs Kings TV. Big up Marlon and Ash for having me on. I really appreciate getting the call up. Felt a little bit disappointed that I didn't get called up to the last one. Didn't realize there's going to be another one, so eternally grateful to have been given the option to come in. And I'll get right into it. You've asked me to answer 3 questions. The first being, where am I at with Ange? I'll go back to the beginning. Those first 10 games, I think that they were a bit of a smokescreen. I've maintained from the off that I wasn't super impressed with, regardless of the results, I wasn't super impressed with the style of football. And I think that we were quite lucky to be unbeaten in those first 10 games. I think back especially to the Man United game at home where we beat them 2-0. And obviously, everyone's over the moon. We've beaten a top 6 team with a new manager. And we're all excited. Pap scored his first goal. But I remember the first half, we conceded like 22 shots or something stupid like that. And, we were very lucky to go into half time. I think it was either 1-0 or 0-0, but we were lucky to go in not being down, in my opinion. And I do wonder what would have happened if we hadn't managed to win that game, whether the form would have stayed the same or not. Who knows? But for me, I want Ange to go. I've wanted him to go for a while. The end of last season for me was unacceptable. I mean, look, we finished 5th, fine. I take that. But the problem for me is that we were just so bad, and I got sucked into the whole, once we get our players back from injury, we'll be good, and the players came back and we just struggled so much. I struggled to see patterns of play. I've harped on from the beginning that the fullback system that he plays just doesn't work, leaves us overly exposed. I think one of the biggest mistakes that he made was that Chelsea game. Not the high line with 9 men, because look, we were a gnat's cock away from a beautiful Eric Dyer finish, and I don't dislike Dyer like everyone else does. And maybe he would have shut up shop after that, but it was after the game he said, I could have 5 players on the pitch and I'll play the same way. And for me, every other manager basically went, all right, well, I guess this is how he's going to play. I reckon I can just set up my team the same way. And every manager pretty much has done the same thing. And, you go back to Monday Night Football where Gary O'Neill basically gave the blueprint of exactly how to beat Spurs, and lo and behold, 6 months later, he came to the White Hart Lane and did the exact same thing and got 2 points. Got 3 points. You know, we concede very similar goals all the time, and I look at that Fulham game recently, where we go 2 minutes into the game, we give the ball away on the left, and within 2 minutes of the game, they've got a 4-on-2. You just can't defend. You can't defend with two defenders every time and expect not to get punished. And you know, in all honesty, we've been very lucky. The injuries, I think he's underused the squad. Whether you think that it's his fault, whether you think it's his system, his training, whether you think the players aren't good enough, whether you think it's the medical team, we've had problems, and I don't think that you can just write everything off based on the injuries and say that, you know, we would be better if we had all those players. Look, granted, I'm sure we would have been better, but I still think that the system just doesn't work and won't work the way that he employs it with the players that we've got. And I'll answer the sort of the third question, which is, what does he need to succeed if he is going to stay on? He needs to adapt. He really does. And we've seen some adaptation. You know, the left back now in the system doesn't quite invert as much. But I think when you see Jed Spence play, he's been our best player since he's come in. But the few games that he's played on the right have not worked. And that's because, for me, the way that he uses his right back is just criminally insane. No two ways about it for me. I think that to succeed, he needs another player in every single position, particularly left back, definitely CDM. But he told us at the beginning of this season, I don't need a CDM. He thinks that all midfielders can play the same role, can play different roles. And it doesn't really matter if they're a creative midfielder or a defensive midfielder. They should be able to do everything that the other midfielders can do, which for me is just wrong. Do I want him to go? Yes, I do. I don't watch enough football outside of Spurs these days because in the last few years I've just had the life sucked out of me. I have no will to watch other teams play, for the most part. Not enough in depth to say, oh, I really like this manager, really like that one. I have really liked the look of Iriola at Bournemouth. Maybe it's a cliche request for a manager to come in now. I wanted Pochettino, so I'll go with Poch, but I'd be happy with Iriola. I'd be happy with Marco Silva. I'd be, not over the moon, but I'd accept Thomas Frank. And yeah, look, the second question was, do I think we'll win the Europa League? In short, I think we can. But do I think we will? We'll have to see after the next game. Frankfurt's going to be a tough test. And there are good teams left in it. At the beginning of the season, I said that if we finish 6th and win the Europa League, I'll be happy. And look, the 6th can't happen. We can win the Europa League, and a lot of fans said I'd be happy with 17th and the trophy. For me, I think that's ludicrous, and I can't accept that. But if we win a trophy, I'll have to, hold my tongue and I'll accept it. But for me, the ideal outcome is that he wins the Europa League and he falls on his sword and says, "This is as far as I'm going to take the team. I've done all I can do," and walks away. But with the money involved, I just don't see it happening. And look, I'm already 3 minutes almost over the time, so I apologize. But I had too much to say, and I just appreciate you guys having me on. So thank you very much, and come on, you Spurs.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy Jords, aka Do-Rag Diaries, and shout out to Marlon for getting me back involved in this video. To tell you where my head is at with Spurs right now, I think it's clear to see, as you can see behind me, the flag is down. I'm no longer repping the Ange in crowd. I have turned a corner. I saw enough after the Aston Villa and Liverpool games when we got knocked out of the Cups, and I think it's fair to say that the mentality wasn't all the way there, and there's been a lot of questions regarding the football, the tactics, the sustainability of the way that we play, but definitely in those games, it made you see enough to see that I don't think this is the manager to continue to take us forward. When you look at our Europa League hopes, I don't really think that Spurs have enough to go get it done. Do we have a good enough team player-wise? Yes. Have these players shown it this season? No. And that's where I'm at. I think some of the other teams in the competition have probably been here before. They're used to being in the quarterfinals. They're used to playing under this amount of pressure. And some of them are in pretty decent form. When you look at Frankfurt, you look at Lazio, potentially Atletico Bilbao, some of the opponents that we could look to face if we do move further on into this competition. But with regards to this Frankfurt game, I think we may have some luck in that first leg at our home ground, but going away in Europe, even as we saw against AZ Alkmaar, we're just an absolute mess, and Ange hasn't done anything to change that. So I'd like to see a new manager come in. I would have liked for it to be during this international break, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like that is going to happen. With regards to my candidate for a new manager, I'd have to say Xavi Hernandez. We're talking about a young manager, someone that's upcoming, someone that's won things, someone who has aura. Yeah, we can't take, let's have it right. This is one of the greatest midfielders of all time. When he walks into that dressing room, there's instant respect. It's no good eye, mate. It's just who we are, mate. It's whatever Xavi says, you listen. He'll go on that football pitch and show you how to play if it's that bad. So I'd love to have Xavi, the work that he done at Barcelona to show that he could bring through a lot of academy kids. His coaching is really good. Tactically, I feel like he's set up to suit for our team. I think we are primed for a three at the back, though he doesn't play that. I think he's open to adjusting his tactics a bit more, and he's a lot more adaptable than Ange is with his team. So I'd love for that. That's my dream manager. Do I think that it's one that Spurs are going to go and get done? Probably not, but hey, we can all dream, can't we?
So, obviously, a couple of the questions. For question one, where am I at with Ange now? For me, he's as good as done. It just seems to be these players, even though they claim they are playing for him, they don't seem to be. It feels like he's tactically inept in regards to how he can ask these players to perform in certain positions. So, for me, yeah, I am Ange out. It's a shame because it's another manager who's gone through the cycle of being failed by these owners. The second question, can he win the Europa League? It takes luck to win a competition, and I feel there's been games we have ridden our luck. So I want to believe he can win it. Do I believe he will? Not necessarily. I don't know. I feel that the Tottenham syndrome will kick in and we will get to the final and it'll be a gutless performance. We've seen too many games like it, Aston Villa, Liverpool, etc. And because I'm Ange out, you asked obviously who would be his ideal replacement. You look at ideal replacements, you would hope we'd be looking at Allegri, for example, and bits like this. Unfortunately, I can't see a manager who would take us to the next level wanting to come to the club. We don't have that superstar player in Kane. We don't have Son, who's in his prime. We have young players that have exceptionally high levels of ability. You've got Archie Gray in the next 2-3 years who could potentially be a captain at Tottenham. You've got Lucas Bergvall. You've got the likes of Mikey Moore, who within the next year or so could develop into a squad player and really be helpful. So for me, it would be Iraola if I had the chance, and I know he plays in a similar way, but he knows how to adapt, and the things that he's done with this Bournemouth team. I want a manager who's going to be able to show a bit of passion on the sidelines, to get into his players if we're not performing, not a manager who's going to be looking at the floor. For him to succeed at the club, you're talking investment of players that he chooses, not that he's given. I would say time would be something that we would have to give him, but unfortunately we're not in a situation anymore where we have time. I think that he's going to have to be able to come in, adapt fairly quickly, get given players that are ready to go now. So for me, that is going to be what we need as a club to be able to kick on. Cheers, Miles.
Look, I think it's no surprise that it's been a difficult season for Ange, man. I was on side, I did want to give him time, but unfortunately, I've come to the realization that I personally don't believe Ange Postecoglou is good enough to be the manager at Tottenham Hotspur. Now, some people might put it down to tactics, people might put it down to man management, and people might just put it down to his skills as a manager. Me, I think it's a blend of everything. I think his squad selection has let him down at times. How he conducts himself in interviews has definitely let him down at times. And I also just think, being so naive and refusing to adjust your tactics, no matter how many players we lose through to injuries and all of these things, I think all of these things have played a part in why I no longer can support this manager. Now, we are still in the Europa League, so what do I think about our Europa League campaign? Well, I'm not very confident. I would love to win that competition just to be able to say, you know what, this season we got something at least from this season. However, Frankfurt in the quarterfinals is not an easy game at all. They're a really, really strong side. And it's going to be difficult, man. It's going to be very difficult. The players are going to have to be up for it. So, yeah, it's not. I'm not very confident. However, I am hoping that we can go out there and get the job done. Now, in terms of an ideal replacement for a manager, I've said Marco Silva from Fulham. I think he's the perfect manager. He's the manager that we need. He's a bit of both. He can be pragmatic and, stink games out, but he can also flood men forward. There's that perfect balance between defence and attack. He also won't demand a high transfer budget, which kind of works because right now we're seeing that we're not getting the players that we need to be getting. And I feel like to play the style of football that we're playing with this manager, we need much better players. So, yeah, I believe Marco Silva would be the best replacement for Ange. I think he'll get the best out of what we have so far. And he could bring in a few little additions that can help strengthen up the squad. But, yeah, peace. Take care.
Hi, Marlon and Ash and everyone at Spurs Kings TV and everyone else who's watching this video. Thanks for asking me for my views on Ange and where we are as a club. And unfortunately, it's not a good place, is it? So I've been Ange out really since the end of last season when we had our injuries and the players came back and we were poor. We didn't show any improvement in results, in performances, in tactics, in shape, in cohesion, in morale, in anything. And it's got worse this season. So more injuries, but everything else, yeah, that gives him some leeway, but everything else is worse. The same old tactical errors. I can't see this being a way that brings success at any football club at this level, but certainly not at Tottenham with the players that we currently have. So very much Ange out, unfortunately. I also think, look, compare Ange to the guy he was when he walked in, the kind of cheery guy, the sort of almost happy-go-lucky. Now he bites back at reporters, he's arguing with fans. I think he's lost some belief in himself, if I'm honest, and I certainly think the players have. Of course, they're wheeled out in front of the camera to say, no, we're really behind the manager, but that's what you're going to do as the club. You're going to tell your employees to do that, to show some solidarity and some togetherness, which I don't really think is there, if I'm honest. So, Ange out. Moving on to the Europa League, can we win it? We can. Like, there are 8 teams that can win it. Leicester won the league. It's more likely than that was. But we're going to need players to really step their game up, and we haven't seen much sign of that lately. We're going to need a lot of luck because we will be open. The opposition will have lots of chances. We might need some outrageous refereeing decisions. So it's possible. Do I think it's very likely? Absolutely not. I don't expect us to have the team spirit, the cohesion, the tactics, the togetherness, the fight to be able to go away in a second leg to Frankfurt or Lazio in the semis. In the way that Newcastle just fought in the semi-finals against Arsenal and in the final against Liverpool, the togetherness, the spirit, the relationships they have on the field, the playing as a unit, we have none of it. And we've seen that in our key games this season, at Liverpool, at Villa, first leg at Alkmaar, and plenty of other times where we lack all of these things. So no, I don't think we will win the Europa League. But football has a funny way of surprising you. Not so much as a Tottenham fan. I'm used to being surprised in more of a bad way than a good way. So I'm going to say no. And then moving on, who do you want to replace Ange? Hopefully when rather than if he leaves. I mean, I'd replace him today with anyone just for the end of the season. I think it would lift morale and would give us a better chance. Even Mason, I think, would do that. But I don't want Mason long term. So the key question really is, what is our ambition as a club, and what are we going to change? If we're just going to change the manager, then any of Iraola, Frank, Silva, any of those is fine by me. I think anybody gives us a lift. If we want meaningful change at the club, we know ultimately we need a change of owners. That's a very big ask. But to even have some sort of reasonable improvement back to the sort of Poch levels, we need to clear out our recruitment team, and they all need to change as well. So, the director of football, everything we do with the recruitment appears not to be good enough. What do Munn and Lange do? I don't think anybody really knows. So if we're going to do all of that, then Iraola definitely would be my choice, and support him with a proper recruitment team. If we're not going to do that and we're just going to change the guy at the front, frankly, anybody will play better tactics than Ange. So if that's all we're going to do, I'm not too fussed. If we're going to get rid of everybody, including Levy, maybe then I'd take Poch back, because otherwise I think he's set up for failure, because you're going to compare him to what he did the first time, and he's never going to achieve that. Certainly not with Daniel Levy still there. So that's my views. Hopefully we will end the season better, surprise us and get a trophy would be amazing. And hopefully on to better things next season, because it's been a hard watch this year, and I think we all deserve a little bit better.
Hi everyone, it's Phil. Hope you're well. Inside of Spurs, probably not so much. Outside of Spurs, I hope you are. Just quick video for Ash and Marlon. Big up to them. Big up Spurs Kings TV. All day, every day. Thanks for having me on, chaps. Just thought I'd give you a few quick thoughts where I'm on Ange. Really wanted it to work out for the guy. Don't put all the blame at his door. I think the recruitment has been shocking. How much he's involved in that. We have to take his word for it that he is involved, and it's his sign-off and all that jazz. But yeah, look, performance have been nowhere near good enough. You can't be where we are in the Premier League and not be getting absolute heat and questions asked. And yeah, sadly lacking answers at the moment. But you know, I've always blamed the hierarchy at Spurs rather than the managers themselves. But everyone's got a job to do, and any of us doing it to the best of our ability. I'm not questioning the fans there, by the way, but the manager, I think the players, they've all got to take a little look at themselves in the mirror and think, have we been anywhere good enough this season? And unfortunately, in many games, the answer has been no, we haven't been good enough. I do think, unfortunately for Ange, because I really do like him, I know some people seem to get rubbed up the wrong way by some of his antics and his behaviour, looking at the floor, coughing, calling people out. Look, at the end of the day, he's a football manager, and when things aren't going their way, I wouldn't expect him to be happy. You know, if he was coming out smiling and clapping and laughing, we'd probably be criticising him for that. So I'm not going to dig him out for any of the personal stuff. You know, that's just his natural reactions to these things. Would we like to see better? You know, that's to each individual. For me, I think it's all just about the results, and I just don't think we've been playing well enough. I don't think the results have been anywhere good enough, and the difficulty is, I worry that we might be missing an opportunity now to actually go on and win that Europa. If we change manager now, or even more recently, may we have given ourselves a bit of a shot in the arm, and a new voice on the training ground in amongst the players and in the dressing room may have helped us. But look, while he's still in situ, let's see what he can do. Let's hope he does it. And that brings us on to the next topic. Will we win the Europa? I would love us to. I would absolutely love us to. I'm sure I'm not alone in that, in all the Spurs fans watching, saying this. It will be phenomenal. But do I think we will? Unfortunately, I'll have to, with my head, say no. But while we're still in the hat and we're still in the tie, we're still in the competition, and therefore we've got a great opportunity to do something really special. But it's up to Ange, it's up to the players to actually perform once they cross a white line and do something that would be remarkable. In the end, that would put Ange right to the top of the list, probably overtaking the late great Terry Venables, and probably going up to the likes of Keith Birkinshaw. Probably Ange will be the best manager since the general Keith Birkinshaw left N17 and famously said there used to be a football club over there. And how true that was then, how true it probably is now, ever more so. Those words ring in our ears. But yeah, look, I think if he won it, you know, whatever happens after that, you know, I'm good. I'm good. If he gets another season, you know, he probably earns it if he wins as a trophy. If he doesn't, unfortunately, I think as soon as we go out of the competition, there's going to be serious questions asked. And I think he's going to be getting his P45 and getting the next Qantas out of town, unfortunately. But and I won't be celebrating that. You know, I really wanted it to work out for the guy, but unfortunately, you know, it's show business, not show friends. So as much as other people, especially you, Mr. Chairman, will have to take your fair slice of the blame pie, it's going to be Ange. It's going to be the first getting his marching orders. So who would I want to replace him? Probably both very long shots. But as an interim, I would get Harry back. I think it'd be amazing. I think just say to him, look, stay at the Spurs Lodge if you're not up for driving up and down from Sandbanks every day at your ripe old age, Harry. I know you're going to miss a few horse races, but get us over the line and you'll write yourself into folklore at White Hart Lane forevermore. If you're not already there, certainly if he got the boys over the line and got that trophy, it would be phenomenal. You know, he did have a bit of stardust. He got us on a couple of cup runs, but didn't quite get us over the line. So could he go one better? And really, that probably would be the pinnacle of his whole managerial career if he could do it. But I think that's odds against. And the other one that's probably odds against, I would say, in the near term, will be Xavi. I think he's obviously out of work at the moment. You know, got that Barcelona stardust, and could he sprinkle that all over White Hart Lane and the Spurs Lodge? It'd be amazing to see. If he's wise, he will avoid it at all costs. But you know, let's see what he says. I think if we were to win it and Ange stays on, what has to change at the club is pretty much everything. I think the recruitment would have to be better. I think the rigidity in-game would have to be much better. We'd have to try somehow and make ourselves much harder to beat. Ange doesn't like playing with a 6, but we've got to do something, because at the moment sometimes we're far too easy to play through and get goals against. So we have to make ourselves much better. Best ever Spurs side, the double, they could kick some arse when they needed to. Dave Mackay, key example. Gifted footballer, but very hard man as well. So look, if it's good enough for that 60s team, it's good enough for me. So let's get ourselves a bit harder to beat, shall we, chaps? Got to earn your right to play. Insert whatever sayings you want that fit the bill for you, but certainly a bit of steel to go with the silk would be much needed, I think, down White Hart Lane. But yeah, I think Ange, the players, everyone would just have to up their level. Don't think the recruitment was anywhere good enough last summer in a team that was already starting to struggle, and so you know now we're reaping the bitter fruits of that. So yeah, that would have to be better, and then we'd have to see how we can go. But in the near term, I think everyone would just have to pull their socks up. Now, can we do it? We'd have to really buck our ideas up in those cup ties and buck the trend of what's happening in the league. So it'd be massively against form. But yeah, look, it's up to us to show and prove, right? Show business, not show friends. Let's do this. Anyway, lots of love, gang. Stay well, stay safe. And regardless of everything else, please, keep the faith and come on, you Spurs. And until I see you next, maybe I'll see you at a Change for Tottenham demo outside White Hart Lane against Southampton. Loads of love, lads, and listeners and viewers, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.
Good morning, Spurs Kings TV. First of all, I guess another apology about Jed Spence. So Marlon, this is for you, mate. I hope you revel in that. Where am I at with Ange since my last video? It's not working. Unfortunately, we wanted it to work. It looked so good those first 10 games, but that seems a million miles away. We were found out. Ange hasn't been able to adapt. It's just poor. We know how the goals are going to be conceded every game. So look, yeah, I guess there's no change. I think we're with this manager till the end of the season. We could have reacted in the international break. I guess maybe Europa League is what's saving him. But I think like with always, we wait too long, and then we cause ourselves as a football club more pain. Can he win the Europa League? Can Spurs win the Europa League? Anything's possible, right? But it's going to be interesting. We haven't played. It's the last morning. Obviously, Romero played in the early hours of last night. Had a bit of a shocker, giving away that goal to Cunha. But yeah, of course we can. It's two legs. I think what's going against us, particularly in these both legs, if we get through, is the second leg is away. We all know that going away from home, Spurs have failed to deliver. They've looked quite flat. And yeah, I think we need especially against Frankfurt in that first leg, we need to go there with at least a 2-goal lead. And then we'll see what happens. Look, stranger things have happened, right? We're having potentially the worst Premier League season ever, and then we go and win a trophy. So you never know, right? To replace him, I guess next season, like I said, he's going to do. Look, I mean, there's a numerous amount of people. People have mentioned Thomas Frank, Iriola, McKenna from Ipswich. Even I've heard Poch coming back. It just goes to show what kind of a mess we're in, really, with what we're kind of clinging to, or what we want and everything else, right? So, yeah, look, for me, I don't think anything changes with a new manager. May say, oh, Barry's sitting on the fence here, but I don't think it does, because it's about the philosophy. It's about what we want to achieve. I didn't like Conte, but we've probably got the players now that would suit the way that Conte wants to play. So, yeah, look, I think for me, if I was to say, who would you want? I'd say probably Iriola. But that's probably, he fits into a Levy dream. Doesn't spend a lot of money. Lots of experienced players you haven't heard of. Will the fans accept that? I don't know. We're quite, let's say, we're quite entitled in some respects. That player's not good enough. That manager's not good enough. We deserve better. So look, all I know is that Tottenham will still continue to be Tottenham. We'll continue to flatter to deceive, and we'll continue to, unfortunately, be Spursy. Big up Marlon, big up Ashmatic, big up all the Spurs Kings TV's community. Hit a like, hit a subscribe, share this with your friends. And always don't forget, Marlon, Emerson Royale won a trophy first.
Good morning, Spurs Kings TV. This is Jose from Hotel Cockerell. Responding to your questions that you're asking people, 3 questions. And the first one is, where are you now with Ange since the last video? Can't remember what I said in the last video. Obviously, the club has changed in how it normally operates, because by now managers would have been sacked a long time ago. So they're either believing in him and believing in the process and believing in what they're doing by sticking with Ange, or so that is the only way that I can look at it, because the results have been poor. We've lost far too many games for my liking. But I say to people that I have been in, or I supported Tottenham for over 50 years, and we have been in worse situations than this. We've been relegated. I've seen teams worse than what we've got at the moment. You know, where you turn up and you always thought you'd lose. You always felt inferior to other teams. So yeah, as I said, I've been in worse positions, but with Ange, God, we're so close to the end of the season as well now. I think a whole review of the club needs to be done at the end of the season, because I think that instead of blaming one person for what's been an abysmal season for us, is I think there's other parts of the club that need to be looked at, because it's all interwoven into one. So, you know, at the end of the day, you've got the board level, you know, not putting football first. Then you've got Scott Munn, who I really don't understand what he brings to the table. He's probably one of Ange's supporters, but I don't know what else he brings to the table. You've got Johan Langer, who couldn't tie up a shoelace, let alone do a deal. I feel, and I say this all the time, I feel that Aston Villa let him go. They didn't put up a fight for him. And that's, for me, that's telling. Because normally, when you're going for these doffs, directors of football and stuff like that, they put on gardening leave forever and a day, and you know they can't operate for a certain amount of time and that. But with Villa, they said no, yeah, you can have him, and they didn't put up a fight. They let us come to him straight, or let him come to us straight away. So for me, that sounded alarm bells, but I don't see what he's done. You know, at the end of the day, yeah, I'm not too enamoured by what he's done. So I think he needs to be reviewed and looked at. Yeah, the manager has made mistakes where we've had loads and loads of injuries, and then he failed to rotate with the players that he did have that weren't injured. When you had young players at the time, Oluwasi, Jaayo, Mikey Moore, Dorrington, you had all these players that you could have given 5 or 10 minutes in games, 15 minutes in games, and that would have lessened the burden on the players that you kept flogging week in, week out whilst we had the injuries. It was inevitable that people like Kulusevski would end up injured. It was inevitable that other people would fall off the pace and be in the red zone, because we never rotated players. So some of it has to go Ange's direction, I'm afraid, you know, for him, but it has to go. Players not turning up, I think a lot needs to go in their direction. I then question the coaches that we have at the club. I look at their CVs and they're not electrifying. They haven't done anything of note for me. So I look at that and I think that needs to be looked at. And then the medical team, you know, the medical team has long been a problem at Tottenham Hotspur for many years. And it just seems to have got worse, because players are now coming out and visiting their own doctors because they're not trusting what our medical team say. We've got players that come back too early and get injured. And then we've got players that their recovery plans are not exactly right. So, you know, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff at the club that's an issue, and it just needs a lessons learned, or an inquest at the end of the season, or it should start now really, but by the end of the by the start at the end of the season, should I say, very early on, within the first 2 weeks, you should have a report internally done to say these are the areas that we failed on. This is where we can get better, and this is where we don't need this, and this is where we don't need that, or this is where we need to implement. This is where we need to bring in. But there's a lot, for me, there's a lot of issues at the club. They're not just resting on one person's shoulders, they rest on a fair few. Question 2, can he win the Europa League? Or should it be, can Tottenham win the Europa League? Well, we're in the last 8, so the one thing you can say is that one of them 8 teams is going to win it. And at the moment, before a ball's kicked, we stand a chance like the other 7 do. But if we're going to look at basing it on form, and you're basing it on the mess that we're in at the moment, you wouldn't say that if you were a betting man that you'd put any money on Tottenham to go and win it. Things need to click. You need, with any trophy that you're going to win, things have to click. You need to have some luck as well. But even with the luck that you need to win these kind of big trophies, you need to put effort in, and you need to be playing coherently. I don't know whether the international breaks come at the right time or not, because well, the international break never comes at the right time, because I can't remember the last time we won a game before the international break. We've always had to stew and fester, waiting to come back. And that game was stewing and festering because we lost to Fulham before the international break. Things have to fall in your place. If you looked at it on form at the moment, out of the 8 teams left, we would not be one of the form teams. But with that being said, yeah, anyone can win it. Just need a bit of luck, need things to click. But honestly speaking, I would love, as any other Tottenham fan, I would love a trophy. A trophy, because we haven't had one. We're so dry on trophies. I'd love a trophy. And, God, a European trophy at that, God, that'd be magical. So, yeah, any one of the 8 can win it. But on form, you wouldn't be putting much on Tottenham to do it. Think you need to see what kind of Tottenham comes back against Chelsea and Southampton. First legs at home, I think, against Eintracht. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to turn up, you've got to play. So for me, any of the 8 teams can win it. We're included in that. But on form, you would hedge your bets against Tottenham doing it. Although I would love nothing better. Question number 3 said, if Ange is out, who's your number 1 replacement to replace him next season? And what needs to change at the club for him to succeed? Right, if Ange is removed, and it's an if Ange is removed, I've only got one player, been shouting off the rooftops. Sorry, one manager. Been shouting off the rooftops for one manager. He hasn't got Premiership experience, but neither did Pep Guardiola when he came to Manchester City. Neither did Jurgen Klopp when he came to Liverpool. Neither did a load of managers. Hertzler at Brighton. The list continues. You've got loads of managers that have come in. They didn't have Premiership experience, and they've done well in the Premiership. So my manager that I would bring in, I'd be shouting off the rooftops, who is available, by the way, at the moment, still available, and works with kids. So he works with youngsters. He's done it before, and he makes them better players. And he has been coached by some of the best coaches in the world, and some of the best footballing minds and footballing brains in the world. And he's been involved in some superb teams. He is a World Cup winner, a Euro Cup multiple winner, Champions League winner, title winner, and that's Xavi Hernandez. I'd look at Xavi Hernandez. I'd bring, if Ange is removed, the only person on my list is Xavi Hernandez. The way football is going nowadays, or has been for the last 2 years, and it became more prevalent this year, and it'll become more prevalent next season, is the switch and the move with football teams to go and buy younger players. So I talked about this. I don't do stats and facts and shit like that, but I looked at it 2 years ago and I thought to myself, wow, God, look at the teams that are going out buying players are buying a lot of youngsters, aren't they? Under 25s. I called it 25s and unders and 25s and overs. And to me, it was something like 70-30 that teams were buying youngsters. Last summer, it became even more evident again that, that people were looking at that route. But instead of being 70-30, it's got higher. the players that are talked about nowadays, that people talk about in, you know, the transfer rumours and stuff like that, any club that's rumoured to be after players, they're all youngsters. They're all under 25. So football has switched. They've gone down that way. Instead of buying tried, tested players of yesteryear, that, you know, superb players, no one's going down that route anymore. Everyone's buying younger players. So with youngsters, Xavi Hernandez, he's worked with youngsters. Tactically, he's very, very good. Yeah, when you're in and around Cruyff, Guardiola, and people like that, and then you've won a World Cup, 2 Euro championships, you know, you're one of the best players to have played football in the last 20 years or so. You're talked about, you know, being one of the best midfielders, you know, in the world, and you make world 11s and stuff like that. You know, at the end of the day, and the guy's got such a footballing brain. He's come from La Masia. He brought up the Barcelona way. He's got such a footballing brain that for me, if Ange goes, my number one to bring in is Xavi Hernandez. He could work with youngsters because, as I said, let's face it, it's the way of the world at the moment, where I think as well that football's become very robotic in the last 10 years, and everyone's told what lane to be in, where to pass the ball to, where to receive the ball. Back when Xavi played, there was flair, there was style, you know, there was identities. Everyone seems to play the same way at the moment. There's flair, style, and identities. And I think for me, he is an ideal person to come in and nurture the young players that Tottenham will have, rather than nurture young players that other teams will have. I would bite the hand off and try and bring Xavi Hernandez in. And for him to succeed, Xavi Hernandez, Xavi will bring his own coaches with him. And in order for him to succeed, you know, at the end of the day, you're going down the route of buying youngsters, aren't you? So it's a case of, for him to succeed, him and his coaching team would have to coach the players on a system and coach the players and make them better than what they currently are, or nurture players that are coming through and make them into first team players. For him to succeed, and for anyone to succeed, I think the structure at Tottenham needs to change as well. As I alluded to earlier, I think that Langer, not for me. Scott Munn, don't know what he does. The board, for me, if there's not going to be a sale of the club, the board, for me, need to bring on board footballing people instead of going for spreadsheet people on the board. You need to bring in footballing people to improve the club. Talked about coaching, talked about the medical team. It's a whole round, it's a process between a lot of people in order to make this, to get success. But yeah, as I said, for me, Xavi Hernandez is the number one for me, and he is obtainable. And I'm sure that someone like Xavi would love to pit his wits against Pep. I'm sure he would. So yeah, that's it. I think that's the 3 questions you've asked me. Look, for everyone, please carry on supporting Marlon and Ash here at Spurs Kings TV. Smash and subscribe to them. Sorry, smash a like and subscribe to them. And as always, people, it's come on you Spurs. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.